Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timikemza James. So for our new and old subscribers, you're all welcome to today's video where I'm going to be showing you how to make a corset dress. So it's going to be a corset, like the blouse is going to be a corset, and then overall is going to be a dress. So I'm going to be sectioning this video probably into 2 or 3 parts. So this is going to be the part 1. I'm going to show you how to draft the corset itself, and we are going to be cutting the fabric as well. Then in our next video we'll be doing the skirt part of the corset, and then we are going to be doing the third one, possibly where we are going to be joining the skirts together. But if it's not going to be too long, I'm going to be cutting the skirt part as well in this video if it doesn't get too long. But if it does, it's going to be a 3-part video, right? So in case you're not subscribed to my channel yet, do ensure to subscribe. And it's been a long time I've not seen your faces, or you've not seen my face, right? So I apologize about that. It's really difficult filming like this for me, right? So and please make sure you follow me on all my social media pages. Sumatize on TikTok, Sumatize on Instagram, and Sumatize on Facebook. So let's get into it, guys. So I'm going to be using a cardboard, right? So you can use your pattern paper or anything of your choice. Now the cardboard is not as long as I would want it to be. So what I'm going to do is to start from where I want it. It's going to be like a tube, but it's not a tube because I'm going to be adding an illusion on the upper side. That's from the bust, from the chest upwards. So I'll be adding something like an illusion neckline there. But for now, we're going to work with it as if it's a tube, but I'm going to add a little bit of armhole, right? So I'm taking away 5 inches for the illusion. So I'll start from that 5-inch point. Now I'll mark half of an inch here. So I'll mark half of an inch like so and make a line there. So that half of an inch is going to be my starting point or my baseline, whatever you prefer to call it. So I'll just go ahead and make a mark here. Like so. Then I'll place my tape there, 5 inches like so. Then I'll go down to my blouse measurements. This is 25. I would have loved it to be 26, but 25 is still fine. Now for the length of the blouse, you want to get it to a little bit below your fupa. If you don't know what a fupa is, that's your lower tummy, especially if you have a lower tummy, right? So because this is a corset and you want it to sort of cringe your tummy inward, so that's why the blouse is this long. Don't worry, I know I said it's a dress. So now from this point, I'm going to mark my bust point. Right, from my shoulder to my bust point is 12.5 inches, and to my under bust is 17 inches. Then to my affluence point is 20 inches, right? So then I have the length. Now I'm going to mark from my shoulder to my armhole, which I'm going to use 9 inches. Usually to be 8.5, but I'm making 9 inches because I don't want it to be too tight where I'm looking like I'm jacked up. So that's why I'm making it 9 inches. If I wasn't adding a sleeve, I would have used 8.5. So I'll mark the same lines on this point, my 9 inches, my 12.5, my 17 inches, and my 20 inches. Then I'm going to connect it in a straight line, and then I'll label everything. So here is my armhole, my bust point, my under bust, my waist, and then my hip. Now I'm going to add on the side seam. I'll be marking my upper hip measurements, but till we get there. Now what I'm going to be doing on this armhole line, now I'm going to be marking my dart, right? So for my dart, I have my bust span is 9 inches. So I'm going to make half of 9 inches is what I'm going to be marking here, like so, and here, or let me just make it 5 inches, right? Don't worry. So I'll use 5 inches, which is 10 inches for my bust pan in general. Now I'm going to be taking my dart, so I'm taking 1.5 inch on this side and 1 inch on this side. That's on my underbust, right? Then I'll go ahead and make 1.5 inch on this side, which is the fullest part of my body, and 1 inch on this side. So I'll be connecting it into a regular dart. So I'll connect it to the hip line like so. So I have a video where I taught on how to understand the amount of darts for you to take on your dresses. If you've not seen that video, go ahead and watch it. I'll be linking it in the description box below, so you go ahead and watch that video before you come back to this one, or you watch this one then you go back there if you don't know how much that works for you, right? So this is my regular business. Then on my armhole line now, I'm going to mark a quarter of my bust point of my bust measurement. Then on my waistline, I'll mark a quarter of my waist measurement, right? Like so. And on this point, I'll make a quarter of my upper hip measurement. That's somewhere around my fupa, so I'm going to mark a quarter of the measurement. So then I'll use my hip curve to draw it and so this is it. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to mark I'm going to be marking my underbust tightening. Now my underbust measurement is smaller than my waist measurement, so I'll mark a quarter of my underbust measurement, right? So I'll mark it here, and then I'll find this difference from here to this point, right? So I have a total of 0.75 inches, right? So I'm going to mark I'm going to divide 0.75 in half. So I'll find half of 0.75 and I'll place it here like so, and the other half I'll put it on this side. So I'm going to take it in as a dart, right, so that it gives me more it makes it more curvier, and it gives me more room, right, around my bust area. So I'll just connect it to this point here, and I'll do the same thing here. I'll connect it like so, right? So now instead of working with this line, I'm not going to be working with that line, so I'll be connecting here in a curve, because my bust is not pointed, so I want it curved. So because I'm busty, I'm going down 1.5 inches. Ordinarily you do 1 if you're not that busty, so I'm going down 1.5. Even if I do 2, it's still fine, it will work well, right? Then I'm going to make a curve like so, so I can use my French curve now to make that curve. So what you want to do is to just get a curve that starts from here to that 1.5 or 2 inches. So I usually like to do it by hand, so I'll just go like so. Right, so I've made, so this curve is going to be the line that I'm going to be working with, right, as my bust area. So now let's go up to paying back our darts. Now on the waist measurement, I have 2.5 inches. So on this waistline, I'm going to pay back that 2.5 inches that I took for that. And now I've not taken the dart on the bust line, so I'll just connect this waist to this point here like so. Just go ahead and connect this like so, right? So now let's come back to the upper side of the dress. So now I'm going to be elongating this my dart, right? So if you want it to be sort of a slant, you will go ahead and slant it. So my bust span here that I worked with was 5. So on the upper side of the dress, I'm going to be making it 7, because I don't want it coming straight up. I want it to be in a slant. So I'll just go ahead and connect my bust point measurement right to this upper side in a slant like this. So by the time I slant it this way, I'm going to take my dart on this side as well. So I'll do 1 inch on my center front, and then I'll do 1.5 or 2 inches on this side like so, depending on how curvy you. Let me just work with 2 inches on this side. So that's a total of 3 inches darts, right? So I'm going to be connecting it to the bust point. But you remember I went down by 1.5 to 2 inches here. So I'm going to do the same on this side so that it flatters my bust. So I'll do 1.5 inches or 2 inches also on this side like so. So I'm going to be connecting here and here together, right? So I'll go ahead and draw a line like so, and I'll do the same thing here as well, right? So you can see our bust area is sort of coming out nicely, right? So the next thing I'm going to be doing is dart at depth. So whatever dart I took here, these 3 inches that I took here, I'm going to be paying it back here like so, right? I'm going to come further to do a tightening, but don't worry about that. So whatever I have here, this dart on my bust area here is 1 inch. So I'm going to pay back that 1 inch from here like so, or pay back for that like so. Then I'll come with my curve and make my armhole curve, right? So I'll just go ahead and make my armhole curve like so, right? So now this point is going to meet here. So it's meeting with this point like this, so you can see. So now I'm going to come back to the hip side. You can see it looks sort of weird when I bring it up here. So I'll be needing 1 inch on the hip area to join here and here. So I'll just match that 1 inch like so, and I'll connect it to this point like this. Don't worry that it looks like this. Sometimes it can look this way depending on your body type, right? So now this is what I have. So I'm going to be taking in, remember we said it's a corset, so I'm going to be taking in more darts so that my dress sort of looks snatched. So I'm going to be adding a seam line on the center front, and then I'll be adding another seam line somewhere around here, right? So that I have panels, a lot of panels that I'm going to be working with. So what I'm going to do now is to divide from this on my waist measurements. I'll go ahead and divide it in half. So I have 6.25, so I'll mark 3.1 like so, and then I'll just go ahead and make my line the way I please. If I like, I can slant it or I keep it straight. It's totally fine. So on this side as well, I'll go ahead and mark what I have here by half. So I'll just go ahead and connect it like so. Then for this one, you can go ahead and connect whichever way you want. So now I'm going to take in that on my waist area, because you remember we want our waist area looking smaller. So I'm going to minus some darts from the waist area so that it supports how it fringes my waist. So on this side, I'm going to do 0.25 on both sides, here and here, right? Then on the center front, I'm going to do another 0.25 here, right? Now, don't forget that this is a quarter of my body. So by doing that, it means on this side is here now 0.25 here, 0.25 here, that's 0.5. So by the time I do this on both sides of the front, this dart alone is going to be 1 inch. And if I do the same on the back, this dart is going to make it 2 inches. So this is a total of 2 inches out of my waist measurement. So you have to be bearing that in mind. So I'll connect to this point as well, like so, and I'll connect this center front line like this, like so. Then I'm going to connect here to the bust point like so. And this side as well, I'll connect it to the bust point. So I don't want the bust area to be tight. I just want the waist. So I'm ending it around the bust point. So you can see there's another dart here. So that has given me 1 panel, 2 panel, and the 3rd panel. Now I'm going to do a tightening on the upper side as well. So the tightening on the upper side, I'm going to make it a little bit more. So on the center front, I'll make 0 point. It's going to be 0.5, which is half of an inch here. And on this side, like so, I'm just going to make, that's this dart line here, I'm just going to make another 0.25 on this side, right? So I'll connect it to the bust area as well. Sorry, let me mark that 0.25 properly. So the 0.25 is going to be on this line. So I'll do 0.25 here and 0.25 here. So I'll just go ahead and connect to my bust point. So that's a total of ½ inch here. So on this line, I will elongate that line by ½ of an inch. So from this line, I'll go up ½ of an inch and draw the line out like so, right? So this is going to be my new armhole curve, like so, right? So here we go. So now let me connect this one here. So I'll be connecting here like so. So this is it. This is our front. Now I'm going to label it. So this is my center front, my mid front, and this last panel here is my side front, right? Now don't forget there are no sewing allowances on this panel yet. So by the time I cut the back and I'm cutting the fabric, I'll be adding all my sewing allowances alongside. So now I just added my green lines here, here, and here, just for you to know the direction at which your pattern is facing, right? So let me go on and cancel my dart area where I'll be cutting out, so that it helps you to understand what I'm doing, right? So this side is a dart, so I'm going to be canceling, I'm going to be cutting out this side up to here. Now don't forget that I've not added my neckline, right? So for now it's just a straight neckline, and I want it to be sort of a sweetheart, a little bit of a sweetheart. So you remember we have 5 inches already, so I'm going to bring it down by 6.5, and I would make my sweetheart from there to sort of meet this side like so. So this is it. This is what we have here, right? So it meets. So if you want, for me and busty, if you're not, you can go down to up to 8 inches or even 9. If you want a plunge neck, you can go as low as you want with your neckline. But I don't want my bust outside like that, so that's why I'm closing it up to 6.5. So now the next thing that I'm going to be doing is to ensure that all my lines are going to meet by the time I'm sewing. So I'll start measuring this side from here. So this is going to be my sewing line. So I'll have to be sure that it's going to meet with this other side, because this side is supposed to, the seam is going to be here and here. So I'll just measure. Most times they don't align, so you have to measure it so that you can add where you need to add. So here I have 20.6, so I'll measure this one as well. This one is usually the longer side because the curves are not the same. So you can see I have a big difference here. This is where 20.6 stops. So I'm going to measure what I have here. This is 1.5. So ordinarily from this line, I should add it 1.5 like so up here, right? So I'll come back to, because I don't have up to 1.5 on my cardboard, I'll add that later, right? So I'll measure here as well. Then I'll measure the other thing. So this just needs a little bit of addition, so I'll go up. So this is going to be where my armhole is. Now this ½ inch that I took here, I have to pay it back here. That reminds me. So I'll just, this is going to be my new armhole line. Then I'll connect here like so, right? So now I've added this one. For this one I have 1.5 inch to add here. Now let's go ahead and extend our lines and draft the back. So I just flipped it over and the paper was not enough, so I taped down extra paper on it so that I can draft my back. So I have my lines now. Now this is my chest line here, my bust point, my under bust, my waist, and this is my hip line. So I just flipped the paper onto the other side so that I can have my bust line meeting each other. My armhole is supposed to be on that side, so this is going to be my center back right here. So don't forget that this was my chest point on the front side, right? So, and it was 5 inches from here, and then the bust, the under bust, the armhole, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to be marking my bust pan measurement. So for the back, I'm going to be using 4 inches for my bust pan. So I'll mark 4 inches like so, and 4 inches on this hem like so. So I'll just rule a straight line like this, all the way up, right? So I'm going to be marking my total, my bust, half of my bust, a quarter of my bust measurement. I'll go ahead and mark it like this, and a quarter of my waist measurement, and then a quarter of my hip measurement like this. So I'll just go ahead, I'll use my hip curve now, connect like this, right? So now I'm going to make another I want another line here, so I'll just mark 3.5 like so. I want another seam line there, so I'm making 2 dots at the back. I'll just connect like so. Now I'm going to be adding my dots. So for this side, I'll make ½ inch here, ½ inch here. That's a total of 1 inch. That's on the, sorry, it's supposed to be here, but this is the waistline. Half here, half here. Then on this side as well, you remember that I took in so that I slimmed the waist. That's what I'm going to do here. So 0.5 here, 0.5 here. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this all the way up like so, and like so. I'll connect this one as well all the way up like so, and like so. Then I'll connect it to the hip point as well, like so, and like so. Right? So here is it. So for the back side, I'm going to take out 1 inch so that it sort of sits nice and snug, and then it laces me properly, and it also is snatched around my waist. So on my waistline here on the center back, I'll take 1 inch from there, then I'll connect like this, and like this as well. So on this side, I'll mark ½ inch here because I want a little bit of opening there. like this, right? So this is my center back. So this is my, I'll label it, this is center back, this is mid back, then this is side back. Then I'll mark my grain lines, right? I'll still come back to take another dart, but I'll explain that dart further. So this is where my patterns are facing. Now on this waistline, so that I don't have any bold gathering around there, I'll take 1 inch of that here, so which is half here, half here. So I'll connect the dart going inwards like so up to my side seam here. So this will eradicate any gathering. So that bolt usually comes even from zip. So I'm going to open that dart and close. I'm going to be closing that dart. Now for my back, I want it a little bit lower than that, so I'll mark 5 inches. So this is going to be 5 inches across my back, so I'll bring it down to maybe 7 or 8 inches is fine, right? So let's do 8 inches. So I'll just connect that to this point like this, right? So now on the back side here, sorry guys, power went out on me, so this was what I was trying to do before that. This line that I have here was a mistake, so I'm going to have to clean it out. You remember this upper side was my armhole line, not the lower side, so I'm going to just take back that line and extend it up to that armhole line over there, right? So if you remember, that was my armhole line, that was where it was supposed to meet the front side, if you remember. So that's what I'm just trying to correct here. So I'm going to be extending all my dart lines to the upper side there. So the neck depth was not supposed to be that deep. I'll extend it and then I'll bring the neck depth to the lower side. So I'm just going ahead to mark in a quarter of my bust measurement, right, like so, and I'm going to connect it to that other side to be my armhole curve, right? So this upper side is actually supposed to be my chest line, sorry. So and then that's where my armhole line is supposed to start from. So I'm just going ahead to make my armhole curve like so, and then I'll go ahead and connect my neckline depth. So instead of this lower line that I have here, I'm going to take it up to this upper side that you can see. So you can go ahead and use a ruler or whatever neckline you prefer. So I'm just going to use a ruler to connect that straight up like so, and this is it, right? So since my armhole, my chest line went up, I'm going to have to correct my dart so that it comes all the way up to that chest point, right? So it's nothing much, I'm just redrawing my dart. It might not even make any difference, but I mean, I just wanted to correct it. So that's just what I'm going ahead to do. So this is what I have, and these are my green lines inside there. Make sure you mark them. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out that dart, the darts that I put on the waist to eradicate excesses, right? So for me to be able to do that, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the main bodies of the back, like that back body, so that it will enable me to cut open that dart and close it, if you understand what I mean. Now I forgot to pay back my dart allowance that I took, so that's just what I'm going ahead to pay back and reconnect it. So which means I'm going to come back to tape this line that I cut on this side, right, before I complete the cutting on the point where I paid back my dart. So that's what I'm just going ahead to do. Now I'm going ahead to cut open the waist darts, right? So I'm going to cut one leg of the darts, then I'll go ahead and bring a masking tape or a cello tape, whatever you have, to pick that leg that I cut open, and then I'll sit it on the other leg that has to automatically closed the dart opening, right? So which means I'm eradicating fabric by the time I'm cutting it on fabric. So I'm going to be using a masking tape to tape it down. So by the time I'm done taping, I'll go ahead and cut out all my panels like so. Don't forget to label your panels, guys, or number your panels, whatever works for you, right? So you remember the front side that I told you I'm going to need to extend so that that side matches each other. I needed to extend it by 1 inch or 1.5. I'm just taping extra pattern paper there so that I can go ahead and extend it. I think it was 1.5, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and measure the 1.5 on that point, and then I'll go ahead and mark it. I don't think it was up to 1.5. Yeah, I didn't know it was 1.5. So I'll just go ahead and extend that line, then I'll curve it back into the neckline, and I'll continue cutting all my panels. Now by the time I join the center front and the other side is going to match, that's the center front and the middle front, so it will match. So using this new line, that's where I'm going to cut. So that will be my new line, then I'll continue cutting all my panels. So here are all my panels. I have my center panel, my front panel, right, the center piece, the middle front, side back, middle back, and center back all together like this. So I went ahead to cut all my fabrics together, and I cut the center front. Each panel I cut two of each on the main material and 2 of each on the lining. Now I went ahead to interface the main material, right? I added hairstay, double layer of it, because the material was soft, and I added paper stay on the lining piece. So I'm lining with a satin material. Then I also went ahead to add a 1/4 inch sewing allowance on all round my panel, right? So that's what I did here. It was a lot of work, so I couldn't film through all of that, but this was what I did, right? So let me come again so that you can understand. On the main fabric, I went ahead to add 2 layers of interfacing, which was hairstay that I used. So that is the hairstay you're seeing on the wrong side, right? So this is what it looks like, and I'm using a crepe fabric. Then on the lining, I added a soft layer of paper stay on the lining piece, and that was it. So I have a tutorial on the sewing and also how I added boning to it. So this boning tutorial is already up on the channel, so I'll be linking it down in the description box. So this is it about this tutorial. Make sure you watch the boning one and also the sewing one. So if you enjoyed this video, you find it helpful in any way, please give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, guys, subscribe to my channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever I have a new video up on the channel. See you in my next video, guys. Bye.